Maize is a predominant staple in Southern Africa. Um, Unfortunately, maize doesn't do very well in terms of climate change, in terms of production. Every time you've got a drought, maize will be one of the first crops that is going to suffer.
As youth, now we are all having conversations about eating healthy, staying strong, and we realize that one thing that is important for us is what we call the indigenous foods or the traditionally forgotten foods.
Studies are there that shows that we have got quite a lot of nutritious food that were eaten by Africans that are still being eaten in Africa today. And most of us as Africans are not consuming those products. But it is also a matter of ensuring that a person who is going to influence the taste and preferences of Africans is taken into confidence in terms of the health benefits of the diets that we have previously had as Africans and how we need this in order to balance this. I mean, if you look at the load that you would have in the health space of people who are eating diets that are not necessarily nutritious, that are not necessarily safe, vis-a-vis what you would have in terms of indigenous products, then you would far better be placed to deal with the indigenous diets in Africa, which uses less resources and less energy in order for you to produce, which is drought tolerant and would be able to be produced far efficiently than you would have with introduced diet.
Our national governments should have an aggressive approach to changing the mindset of our people to adopt first crops that are tolerant to pests and diseases and crops that are tolerant to drought.
There is this push from the global north and even internally for these underutilized crop species. But do we have enough seeds, for instance, to actually have everyone plant these underutilized crop species? No, we don't. Do we even have the agronomy for the different agroecological zones that are there for everyone to then shift to this? Maize is not going anywhere. More than ever, we actually need more maize. Maize is dual purpose: feed, food, and energy. Also used in the textile and industrial. Remember, I say that there's now a shift from more livestock, increased livestock integration in current systems, suggesting that we need more feeds.
It's a question of also affordability. And if you have got to look at food security and leave the issue around affordability, you would be misplaced. And therefore, as you go through the systems, the more affluent people become, the more they would look at other dietary requirements and would look at other foods that would meet those dietary requirements. And therefore, you would have people then switching to other products. Now, if you have got to look at an affluent South African, they would be more accustomed to rice, more accustomed to eating bread than somebody who has got less money or even maybe below the poverty line, the food poverty line, that they would have other sources in terms of that. So you would basically have substitutes as you go out the affluence ladder.
But then you go back to impoverished communities where they work longer hours and their diets need to be high in calories for them to sustain activities. To then take away the one thing that sustains their activities or in terms of their energy requirements becomes a bit far-fetched. What we now need to do is to actually have a better context assessment to say, where does it make sense for us to at least promote systems that are maize-based, and where does it make sense to then have other crops come in as alternatives or to complement maize systems. Policy shouldn't be so blinkered in its result. It has to be informed And that's where scientists come in to then say that within this particular landscape, this works here more than there, but it's also situational. Now you're looking at Southern Africa that had one of its lowest harvest of maize this year, and you tell them, no, don't grow maize. How does that make sense? We have a whole thriving economy of seed companies that rely on sales of maize, right? So it has to be a bit more logical, right? More informed and more purposeful. So my response to your question is more like they still need more thinking and planning around the future of existing cropping systems. And currently, it's not just eradicating one system over the other one just because it is purported to.
It is a two-pronged approach. We first of all, we're not producing enough maize to feed the population. So the first step is to make sure that the productivity of maize increases, so that the prices are go down and it becomes accessible to the population. Two, we're diversifying diets, because maize, apart from the challenges of production, um, needs to be fortified, or you need to add a lot of things for it to be nutritious. Yet there are indigenous food that are indigenous to the region that nutritious. So there's a drive to improving and making sure that people are consuming indigenous and diversified diets. We are also pushing for growing of resilient crops, sorghum, millet, which have been shown to perform very well in terms of climate change, which we're having almost every 2 and 3 years.